Hello and welcome to this video on upgrading GTViewer Data Server version 5 to version 6. If you're on version 4 of GTViewer Data Server, there's a specific version of this video for it. There's several ways to upgrade GTViewer Data Server, and the most extreme way to do it is to simply delete the current installation and start over with a fresh install. And there's a video on doing a new installation. But there's a simpler way to do it, and this video is going to walk you through step by step on upgrading an existing version of GTViewer Data Server. Depending on which version of Windows Server you're using, you may need to upgrade your .NET Framework runtime. GTViewer Data Server version 6 uses the .NET Framework version 4.8, and if you're on an older version of Windows Server, it may not have that by default. This version that we're installing on for this video is 2022, so it comes with version 4.8 installed, but I believe that older versions do not, and you have to install that separately. The first thing we need to do is make a backup of our current installation, and it's very simple to do this. Go into your File Explorer and go to your inet pub, www.root, and you have a GTViewer directory. Inside this directory is our current installation. I'm going to go up to the GTViewer directory and just drag a copy to our desktop. You can copy it however you want, but I'm going to rename it just so we know what it is. Now if we make any mistakes or cause any problems, we have a complete copy and we can just copy it back and we're back to where we started. So if we go into our GTViewer directory on our current installation, there's just a few things we need to keep. The manifest INI, the web config, any of your data projects. Mine are demo data, so it may not be as important as your own, but you do need to keep your GIS data. And the last thing is in your bin directory, there's a users INI, which is all your users. So the quickest way to do this is just to go through and delete everything that we don't need. I'm going to just start at the bin directory, select everything except your users INI, even the Roslyn directory, because we'll get a new Roslyn directory with the next one, and delete it. Our ElectGAS regular and ElectGAS secure are two demo data sets that are delivered. We're not going to use either one of those, and we're going to get a new data set in version 6, so I'm going to delete those. We're going to get a new help directory in version 6. Now the log file directory we want to keep. And the reason for this is it's already got the right permission set for your application pool user. So we're going to keep that. The web app data and the web app files and the web app images are the same way. They all have right permissions defined. And on top of that, they have the data that your users have already posted, so you don't want to delete that. If you're on an older version, this is the last version of version 5, which has a web app files directory. If you're on an older version or an earlier version of 5, you may not have the web app files because it was added somewhere in between 5 and 6. So it's a new directory, but it's also going to be delivered with version 6. Now the rest of these files, we can get rid of everything except our manifest file and our web config file. So I'm going to delete those. And I'm going to rename our web config file to be .old, just so we know it's not the current one. And that's got us ready to install the version 6 files. So I've already got the version 6 files copied to this machine. In this directory here, I'm going to go to it. I'm going to go to inet pub, www.root, and there's a GTViewer directory there. This is version 6. I'm going to copy everything, and the files like manifest INI are they're slightly renamed. They're .sample, The same thing with your users.ini file and the bin file. It's users.ini.sample. So there's not going to overwrite your current ones when you copy it over. There may be some things that get copied over, like in your log files directory and some of the other files, there's a README file. Those are going to overwrite the ones that are there, but they shouldn't overwrite anything that is of your own, like your posted data or any other information that you may have that's separate from the product. So I'm going to copy all these files and go back to my C inetpub www root gtviewer, and I'm just going to copy or paste everything in there. Now it's going to say there's a few files that overlap. Well, let me decide for each one. And I'm really just showing you that it's not anything that you should worry about in this case anyway. The README files, the demo electric gas info files for the projects, there's a couple of those, and there's some more README files. None of that matters, so I'm going to say continue and override everything. Now we've preserved our permissions on our directories, and we've got our we've kept our old manifest file, but there's an interesting thing here. Between versions 5 and 6, we went from having a regular and a secure data set to just having one, since everything is secure in version 6. There's not a regular mode. So our manifest .ini file from our previous data sets still pointing at the -regular and -secure projects. This doesn't really help us, but since it's demo data, it doesn't matter a lot, but for your purposes, your projects will be in there and not the demo data set. So I'm going to just open up our old one, or the sample one that came with GTViewer data server version 6, and I'm going to put that in our current one and get rid of the two that are there, since this is just demo data and the demo data has changed. We'll go to our bin directory real quick. In the users.ini file, our sample users have changed along the way somewhere. I believe in version 5, some of the versions of version 5, our sample admin didn't have a star in the password. We put the star in there so we could test that. And I think the demo may have defaulted to the default group, and it's slightly different now. And we're going to use this version. So if I'm using different passwords or groups than you're used to from the demos from version 5, that's why they're different, because our users have been changed a little bit. And that is our files are all in place, but we still need to go to our web config and update it with the settings from our old one. So I'm going to open up our new web config file, and also our previous one from version 5. I'll put these side by side so we can compare. There's a few differences, but not as many as there were from, say, version 4. One of the big things here is security mode is no longer a setting. It's always enhanced mode now in version 6, and the GTshare Redline mode is only web app mode is supported now, so there's no need for that mode either. So both of those were taken out for version 5. I don't believe there's any new ones. You still have a registration key, and you have to get a new registration key for each version of version 6. It's not like version 5 where one registration key was for all of them. So I need to bring up get my key and go to my new file and paste in I didn't quite get them all there. Paste in my new key, so we'll be ready to run version 6. Were there any other files or any other settings that needed to be changed? Since they're mostly the same, you can just kind of look across and see if there's anything that needs to be different. These are both set to logging level 10. I would say they need to be 0, especially for production. the security mode is always enhanced. You may want to set HTTPS only mode if you only want to support HTTPS. I don't have it for this machine here, so we're not going to turn that on. That looks good to me, so let's save. If you've made any other custom changes farther down in the file, and this is rarely done, but if you've changed it, then there was a reason for it, so you probably know what the reason was, and you need to make those same or similar changes to the new one. So I think we're set. I'm going to save that and exit out of these. And we're ready to test it. Okay, now that we're ready to test our upgraded GTViewer data server, there's a couple of ways to do it. I'm going to run through both of them. I'm going to start a browser window and go to the default HTML page that's in our GTViewer virtual directory. So http:// this machine name is GTVDS demo, and it's in the GTViewer directory, and it's default HTML. Now, first of all, it comes with this icon. After a few seconds, there should be a block of version numbers. If you get these versions, it's a good sign. It means it's probably everything's working. It tells you the version of GTViewer data server, some of the components. They don't have to all be the same, and they rarely will be. The first one is the main version number though, and the rest of them are just for information, like when you call support. If you do not get this block of versions, then you have a problem, and I would go to the log file directory and look at your latest log file, and it should tell you what the problem is, or at least give you an idea of what to go look at. There's some other things you can try too, but that's what I would do first. The second way to verify that everything's running is to run our reset app, which is in our delivered files under tools, and it's GTVDS reset, and I'll run it, and I'll close out the file explorer so we can see it a little better. Now I've used this before, so it remembered my last settings, but I'm going to clear them out so I can enter everything in again. The server is our machine name, GTVDS demo. You can put the http:// and you can put the /GTViewer on at the end, but it's smart enough to add those if you don't. Unless there's something unusual about your URL, you shouldn't have to do anything special. Our user has to be a user from the admin group. So mine was called admin, and my password was admin123*. You may or may not want to save the password. If you don't want this app to be used by somebody else, you can tell it not to save it, and you would just have to enter the password each time. You can also show the password to see what it is, and when you're ready to do the reset, all the reset does is tell the server app, the GTViewer data server app, to flush the stuff it's got in memory and reload all the configuration. And that's configuration like the master manifest and all the projects that it's got, information in the web app data directory, all of that gets reloaded. So if you make any changes to your data or anything, you should probably always do a reset server, even though it's supposed to do it automatically. I still do it anyway. So I'm going to press reset. It basically gives you back some information like the header in the log file. It tells you the version. It tells you your modes that you're running and some of the settings. It tells you what data projects are available, your web app data directories and all that, and some usage information. And since version 5, the reset app has a few new features, and that it can download the log file, the usage file, and the usage audit file, which is also new. And you don't have to be on the server to get it. So I'm currently at the server, so all I have to do is go to the log files directory and get these files. But if I'm on another machine somewhere else, as long as I'm logged in here as an admin user, I can select these files and give it a path, and it will download them to that path. And it's very convenient, especially if you have a hosted server or you can't freely access your server where you are now. So everything looks like it's running. There were no error messages, and that's not a complete test. We can do one more thing to do a true test how everything works. And if we go back to the tools directory and to the GTViewer data client, which is a Windows app that downloads your projects from the GTViewer data server to a Windows machine in a directory you specify. Now, this is the same process that GTViewer for iOS or Android uses. The difference is that these files are just stored in a directory that you specify rather than loading them into the sandbox that the device apps are using. Now, I'm going to go ahead and browse even though my directory is set. I have a data directory that I want it to write the files. I give it the server URL, the same one we've been using, gtvds-demo. My user's demo, my password's demo. I'll tell it to save the password, and I'm ready to connect. It shows that I have one project available, which is my demo data. It's red because it's not currently local. It's only on the server. I can select it and press refresh all, and it's going to download that project to my machine. It takes it a few seconds to run through and download everything. And when it's done, we're going to look in my C:\data directory to see what it got. And it created a directory called Elect Gas, which is the project name. And inside it is the expanded version of the GTViewer dataset. And if you had GTViewer on your machine, I don't have it on this machine, but if you did, you can find the GTM file, double click, and it would open it up. So that's a quick way to test it. The next step would be to go to a device and use that device to connect to your server and do the same thing. And then you're for sure guaranteed everything works. But if this one works, the other one should work too if your devices can get to the server. And that is upgrading GTViewer Data Server version 5 to version 6. If you have any problems, always go to the log file. It usually tells you what the problem is. If for some reason your server, you just can't figure out what's wrong, I would go to a browser and go to a page in the website, because sometimes if it can't get far enough along for the server to run GTViewer data server, then you won't get any log file because it can't get that far. So you can always go to, let's type in a path, GTVDS demo, GTViewer. I always pick login ASPX. Now it's going to give you an error message, but this is an error message from GTViewer data server just saying I'm not in enhanced security mode, which is true because I'm not. But if you had another error, a more serious error, you would get the IIS logs or information from IIS that would tell you what to go look for next. And that's what you would do. And then once you get that going, then you can go back. Once you get your log files going, you can check out what they are. If you do not have write permission on your log files directory, you're not going to get any log files. So always check that too if you're not getting any log files and you're not getting any errors at this point. With version 6, you cannot log in to anything unless you have a valid registration key. So if you can't get your if you don't have your registration key in your web config file, that could also be a problem. That concludes upgrading GTViewer Data Server to version 6 from version 5. If you have any questions, feel free to contact support or visit gtviewerblog.com or go to our website at gti-us.com. Thanks. Bye.